I am sharing the right screen though.
Yeah, I'm seeing your presentation. Can you make that like in presentation mode, like full screen somehow? Or do you want it to be in this mode?
Oh, okay. So no, it's sharing the wrong screen. There you go. That's why. Okay, hold on. Uh, share screen. There we go.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we're here to learn about engineering. I guess mechanical engineering, since that's what I specialize in. So a little bit about myself. I'm a mechanical engineer. I took around 5 years to finish. I graduated Georgia Southern in 2021. I currently work as a mechanical engineer, specifically a design engineer, and I'll be at this job 2 years come May. So my journey, for the most part, was it all started with high school prep, usually around junior and senior year, college application, involvement networking, then obstacles I face while doing it. So for prep, my specific goals were graduate and do fairly well. So coming out of high school, I started looking up Yoseda scholarships. I went to a lot of fairs. I researched a lot of different careers. From the get go, since I started freshman year of high school, I was in engineering courses. So I had no problem going down that path. And it was a path I already had envisioned myself going down. So to help that along, I also, just Googled a bunch of information, a lot of the various scholarships and stuff like that. So Google's a good friend. Um, Advisors are amazing as well. They help a lot. I know the reason why I even got the Gift scholarship was because I went to career fairs, and one of the advisors for the college I went to, Georgia Southern, told me, "Hey, we offer this," and I said, "All right, I'll apply." So yeah, that is how I started my prep for the most part. I did a lot of AP courses as well. So I got some credits going into that first year of college. I came in as a second semester freshman, I believe, with the amount of credits I had. So once you get into college, the biggest thing is just figuring out where you want to go. For me, I personally liked visiting every college I could go to. Like I visited Kennesaw, I went to Georgia State, I went to Georgia Southern, I went to Georgia Tech, and just you get the feel of how it is there or what you expect from it. A lot of people, talk to the people around, and that's a lot of how I decided where I wanted to go. So atmosphere. The second was tuition. I felt Georgia Southern was a good match with where what I wanted to do, where it was located, and the cost of living there was less than anywhere else. I know coursework between colleges changes in various ways depending on what courses they have and what courses they offer. So that's also a big thing to look into. And again, scholarships. So depending on if they accept one or if they already carry their own, would be a great way to start with that and decide where to go. Next, my involvement. So I usually volunteered a lot. I got to meet a lot of the locals. I know I volunteered at the local restore for Habitat for Humanity, as well as the Habitat for Humanity housing project. So that was great. I got to work alongside other fellow students in various fields, so they helped keep things moving along, keep things fresh. And some of that also led into a little bit of my own expertise, where the Habitat for Humanity housing project allowed me to get hands-on experience building and meeting local people, building houses, getting stuff done, getting lift for projects. So it really keeps things fresh. You can never go wrong with doing voluntary work, and you meet different professors along the way as well, which will give you a heads up of, hey, you might want to take this course or not. So from that aspect as well, I also did clubs. I was in the Japanese club and the Formula SAE club. One was just because it was fun, the other because it had more to do with what I was studying. So on the picture on the left, you see I was doing a finite element analysis on a spool shaft for one of the cars we were mocking up. And on the right is just a picture of me hanging out with the Japanese exchange students and the other group members at Japan Fest. But yeah, So on the internships, that was a good way to de-stress, in my opinion, because I was able to take off time from school. And so that time I spent off school, I was still learning and I was actually gaining money because I was being paid for it. I also got to see different people in the field as well, from professional aspects, whether it was prototyping, in straight engineering, design work, and testing and validation. In this specific one, I was a test and validation engineer, and so as you can see on the right side, I tested charged air coolers and radiators, and those are some of the bigger projects that I got to do with them. You see the fans on the bottom right, and that's on the wind tunnel where we're testing air efficiency and cooling. Um, a bunch of it was a lot of learning from how to research different careers, different paths, and finding out how to write a resume really. So that was good expertise in that area. And then a bunch of obstacles I faced were mostly stress and burnout, like just year to year costs and finding a job at the end. So to tackle the first one, stress and burnout was a big thing since I had a high credit course number or amount of credits I had to take. I had usually a full load every semester between 16 to 18 hours. And so a lot of times I was finding myself to be really like lacking in some classes versus others because I'd fall behind on one, then catch up on the other, and it was this repeated cycle. So that where the internship played a lot, where I was able to take that time off and just do me while also still being able to learn and putting everything on hold for a second, but not forgetting everything. Year to year cost is a big thing. I know obstacles for some people. A lot of my friends took on part time jobs or just jobs within the college as a way to earn credits as well as some income to pay on yearly costs. And then the biggest obstacle at the end was finding a job. My situation was a bit unique since it was right after COVID, so a lot of the jobs were on a hiring freeze. And so the job I had intended to get was with my internship. They became unable to, I guess, go through with it because of the hiring freezes. And so at that point, I was just on and off looking for different jobs here and there. Eventually, I went to an agency. I got a job there for a couple of months until I finally got an engineering job, which I am currently in. So that's more or less the biggest obstacles I faced. But yeah, it's about the end of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Leo. I have a few questions myself, but if anyone else who has joined has any questions, they can ask first if they do have questions. Give them a second. Okay, maybe nothing. I was wondering if you could expand upon how exactly you landed the jobs you're just talking about, like what that looked like. Because I think even for me, it's useful information, but I have to imagine it would be really useful to know specifically in your experience as an engineer, but also just having gone to college, having worked very hard, and you were speaking of an obstacle like being burnt out. It's like, all right, finally all this work pay off, you finally get the job. How did you actually obtain it?
So that's where the resumes came in. Initially there was a course in college they offered a little like after like remedial course that you could take just on a whim. You go to one of their like centers and they help you write a resume.
Hmm.
That's the first time I ever wrote a resume, and a very brief, very simple, no nothing fancy. Um, but that really got me started on it. And then I had a good couple of friends, and we'd all sit down, especially for career fairs, where we'd all write one or two or three different versions of the same resume, just in different ways. And then we'd pick out of those and then write them specifically towards different jobs that we were trying to acquire. So that's how we got internships and really did our research. Like we sat down, we had our laptops up and said, "Hey, what companies are gonna come? What are we looking for? And what positions are they hiring?" So we would tailor make our resumes to that. So going out of college, I then took that same experience and I wrote a very general resume and I submitted to a recruiting agency and I said, hey, whatever mechanical work you'll have, let me know and send them my resume that way. So I got back a call, I would say within a week, and they had an opening for this one job at McCormick. They are basically looking for a field service technician, and I said, yeah, why not? I love it. It's something new. I got to work with tractors, which was completely new to me. So it was fun. From there, I I kept looking because the best time to look for a job is when you have a job. So that passed on for about, I guess, 8 to 9 months. And then I heard about another position opening closer to home at where I work now, WSI. And they were looking for a mechanical design engineer. And so I revisited my resume, remade it all new again, tailor made for them, and sent it out to them. So once I sent it out to them, they got back within, I think it was 2 weeks. And I was able to set up an appointment and go through the process of, an interview, talk to the people, they showed me around what they did and what stations they worked at and stuff. So a lot of just communicating back and forth, being able to, express yourself in that sort of way. And yeah, that's where I've landed so far. But yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you. That was really, really extensive and good answer. That was a lot of useful information. Appreciate that. I had a second sort of follow-up question. So now you've attained the job, you've been, working, you've really made a career out of your mechanical engineering studies, and you've done the work that it took to, revise your resume and reach out to recruiting agencies to attain the job. So what has it been like now that this has been your career actually working in the field? Um, could you just talk a little bit about what your day to day is? I know that varies by job, but just so that someone who maybe wants to study and become an engineer, I think what you do in school differs heavily from what you actually do in an internship and what you actually will do for a living.
Okay. So on a day-to-day basis, what I do is I usually go in, I log onto my computer, I make sure I read all my emails because something happens every day, every time, something may happen out of nowhere. And so the job you're looking for usually, coincides with whatever is going on around you. So since I work in mechanical design, most of what I do goes towards helping customers and helping my team fulfill any necessary services that we need to do. So if a tool or something is broken or needs repair, then we'll look up the prints from previous years and send them their way to say, hey, this is how you need to repair it. Now, if it's something completely new, then I'll take that design and remake it in a way that fits what we're trying to do at the time and then release it, send it to a fabricator. The fabricator will make it, and then they'll get it to where we need to get it. Um, that's the most for the beginning of the day. Then as the day progresses, maybe it slows down or speeds up a little, but a lot has to do with just making sure that everything is working perfectly or as best as it can be, and then just supporting the team and what the team needs. Now I said there was a second part to your question. Can you repeat it?
Let's see. I'd asked what your day to day looks like after attaining jobs, and then I guess I meant I, I I honestly I can't remember what I asked. I just wanted you to talk about like your real work experience and anything that pertains to that. Because I was just saying I think that's useful to understanding. I'd mentioned maybe internships, maybe that is where
Oh,
you're thinking there's a
um,
second question where I figured your internships and real life career experiences at a job probably was more
Ujú.
similar day to day.
Oye,
hmm?
este chavo tiene papeles y todo. Ah, Es que no, no, tú dime, porque como no sé, mañana le dije que una vez lo voy a meter a la máquina de ponchar, la mía. Pero si es con pronto, o sea, le digo que desde mañana. Y que... Lo que pasa
es que el abogado dijo esto.
Whoever's speaking, I think
Dijo,
you may
yo me
not
voy
be
a
aware, or
calificar
maybe
que
you
todo
are.
el warehouse es atendido por pronto staffing.
Ok,
O sea, como esa regla, como diciendo, yo no reviso papeles y ellos me hacen llegar todo.
ok,
Esa era la idea,
ok,
que todo el warehouse, yo no me meto y todo es pronto staffing.
ok,
Mi oficina, mi administración, sí, entra por mi área.
ok.
Entonces, por esa área, él decía que le diera buenos y malos, pero que todo fuera de
Hey,
pronto
Jaren,
staffing.
do you want to
Ahora
mute
voy a
everyone?
lograr que ya nada más.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to pick up on what she was saying. Anyways, sorry, Leo. Apologies.
All good, it's all good.
Thanks, Ricardo. I am getting to that level of fluency. So I was going to say, anyways, I figured your real work experiences and internships probably overlap more in the day to day and what it's actually going to be like to be an engineer than what you're studying in school and being burnt out and a lot of hours like that. If there's anything else you'd like to expand upon, I'm all ears, and it's great for the recording. But if that's all you want to talk about, that's awesome. I really appreciate your time, Leo.
No, yeah, you're 100% right. Most of it has to do with communicating with your team. I would say a good communication between, your coworkers and the field guys is something that really needs to be established, because while you're in school, all you're learning is just how to do things, how to think the certain way that you have to do. But once you get onto the professional level, it's more about, hey, how can I convey what I know to somebody else? So a lot of internships are mostly that. You see a bunch of different people, a bunch of different areas, and that's why they're super, super great for helping you get to that level where you're like, oh, it's not just about, hey, can I do a quadratic equation or can I do these math problems in a certain way? It's a more about, hey, can I do this problem and then explain it to somebody else? So definitely, I would say internships are great for that, and I push anybody to go and get one if they can.
Awesome, Leo. Well, thanks for your time. I have one very last question that is
Mhm.
hopefully a little more lighthearted. Not that this hasn't been, but I was just wondering, what is your favorite part of being a mechanical engineer? What's the most fun to you at your job and as you've been doing it for a while now?
So my favorite part is, it's always when I speak to somebody and they're like, "Oh, you're a mechanical engineer, so like you work on cars." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do, but that's not the only thing I can do." It's just it's a lot of it's funny because some people expect you to be like, you can be a mechanical engineer and be working with NASA, the wildest things, some things that you can't even imagine. But then you could be like at my level, and I'm just like, I just put a 2D box on a piece of paper and say, here's some dimensions, go make it. So some people try to start up a really conversation. You can keep up, but you're just like, that's not my field of expertise.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yes.
so a mechanical engineer goes from anywhere. Just that's why I love it, because you could work from like HVAC to plumbing. Like right now, all I do is like pipe spool specs, so all of that stuff. But somebody might be working on, thermal and heating, which is completely fluid, and that's completely different from what I'm doing. So it's a wide variety of options for you.
Awesome. Very cool. I think you've covered what the main topics and answered all my questions. I don't know, Ricardo, do you have any questions or anyone else who's currently in the Zoom call?
Yeah, I mean, I want to start by saying thanks, Leo, for sharing us your story. Those are really good questions, Jaren. I just had one last question that was, what led you to decide to study mechanical engineering? Like, what led you to that major?
So
And
I mostly took influence from my dad. Um, he is currently a welder, but he studied industrial engineering in Ecuador. And so he taught me a lot of what I knew from the get-go, practical skills, how to work on things, how to, do things. And as I got older, it came a little more naturally to just tinker with stuff. And right when I got into high school, I had talked to, the engineering teacher there, because I was lucky enough that they had engineering courses. And so I talked to him a couple times right before entering, and he said, "Yeah, I would sign up, see how it goes." And I loved it from there, and he was the driving force behind how I got to Southern, because he was also an alumni, and basically what he taught me during those 3 years that I had him in high school was the first 2 semesters of basic core classes for engineering. So that really drove me towards going there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing your presentation. Muchas gracias.
Hmm.
Yeah, Leo, thanks again. Just really appreciate your time. This has been very informative and very useful. I definitely think this will help a lot of people come to decisions and be able to figure out what their path is going to be and what steps they need to take to make that path happen. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad for the opportunity.
I know it looks like we have one new caller who joined. Do you have any questions? I know you may have just got here and your name is just iPhone, so I'm not sure who it is. But we have more time if you have any questions. Okay, well, if no one has any more questions, I'm gonna end the recording.